Hey guys, Zombox here, and today we're going to be doing my Week 2 USFL betting picks for the 2023 season. Last week was a pretty weird week in some of the games. We had a couple of big injuries, we had a couple of great games, and so it's time to go into this week and see what picks I have. So for the Saturday games, the first one is the Houston Gamblers versus the New Orleans Breakers at Birmingham. This is on 12:30 p.m. in USA. So the Breakers are minus 5.5 favorites, and the money line has them at minus 213, the gamblers plus 160, and the over-under is 39.5. This is definitely one of those games where I feel like some people might try to think that it's going to be closer than it is. The fact is that despite having the first week for the Breakers look kind of off on offense, it was very clear they really do have potential. They didn't even have all their running backs play. McLeod Bethel Thompson still had over 300 yards despite having from an eye test and not great game. And they didn't cash in a lot of touchdown drives that they definitely will this week. I think this is an easy one. I think the Breakers easily win this game, and I think they easily do cover the spread. I think there's a good chance they win by 10. And then as for the over-under, this is definitely a close one, as a lot what I said was true for the Panthers Gamblers game last week. The only difference being the Gamblers turnovers were such a big deal that it gave the Panthers 3 points. As for this one, I think this is definitely a very close one to say. Will they get over 40 points? I don't know for sure, but my gut feeling says that the Gamblers' offense is going to be a bit better than it was last time, and I think that the Breakers' defense, though, is still good. So I'm going to go with the under on this one. I know it's a risky decision. I think under is the play here. I just think that the Breakers will score less points than the Panthers did, and I think the Gamblers will score about the same. But I still do think this is going to probably be like a 23-13 type of game, and the Breakers easily win. As for the second game of the day, we end up having the Memphis Showboats play the Birmingham Stallions at primetime 7 o'clock p.m. at Birmingham. The Stallions are 7.5-point favorites, which is insane. They're minus 255 to win and plus 280 underdogs for the Showboats. And the over-under is 44.5. Let's get this out of the way. This is just, I think some of you might say it's a sucker bet. Nah, this is insane. There's no way the Stallions should be this big of favorites. This is definitely people who are now getting back to betting in the USFL thinking that the Stallions are still as good as they were last year. I'm easily taking the Showboats to cover the spread. In fact, I have them winning this game. It's a definite bold claim to make. But I think that the point spread, I think that's very easy to say the Showboats will cover that spread. If they don't, that's really bad for them. Now, the reason for that is if you don't know, the Stallions are dealing with two major injuries. Marlon Williams, their best receiver, he's already out for the year. And Jamar Smith, who was the de facto number one quarterback, he's out for the year. I think Alex Magoo is somebody who was great in, doses, but I don't think he's going to be a great long-term fit. And I think that it's going to be a bit weird. I think the Showboats just have more cohesion from last week to this week than the Stallions do. Especially since Scooby might be playing, but he'll be playing injured. I think the Showboats win this game. The over-under at 44.5 is definitely one where I'm kind of confused. Again, I think this is definitely trying to get people to be enticed by the Stallions. I'm taking the under. The fact is, when your top receiver and your best quarterback, because I do believe Jamar is better than Magoo objectively, I think that you're looking at a team that's going to have a worse offense than they would last week. And so I'm going to end up saying that I think this is going to be an under, and I do think the Showboats win and cover the spread. Then in terms of the Sunday games, the first one we have is the Generals versus the Maulers at Canton. This is a technical home game for the Maulers. The Generals are minus 2.5, and they're also minus 149. The money line, the Maulers are plus 115. The over-under is 36.5. I think this is definitely the toughest one to bet on, all things considered. A minus 2.5 spread is weird. It's just depending on what you think of the Generals. I think the Generals are getting too much hate from last week. They were a much closer game than the score says. The Generals were a couple turnover and downs away from making that game a really, really tight game. And so I'm actually going with the Generals to win this game. I think they end up pulling the W out as well as covering the spread. I think the spread might have also changed to something. I know at least at some point it was like minus 5 for the Generals. I don't know which way it changed. But either way it changed, I still think the Generals easily win this game. The Maulers are better, but Ray Horton is not a huge upgrade over Kirby like I thought just like I thought. I thought he was going to be an upgrade, but not a huge upgrade. So I do think the Generals do win this game. I think they cover the spread at 2.5, even at 5, which I know is like some of the betting now. The over-under, though, that's a tough one. I'm actually going with the over on that one. I think that there's no way the Maulers quarterback group is as bad as they were last week. So I think they're going to end up scoring some more points and, not have to rely on a gimmicky touchdown. I think the Generals are going to be more cohesive as well. I think that showed with DeAndre Johnson last year. He had a very questionable outing passing the first week. And he'll do better this week. Then as for the game on Sunday, we have what I think everyone is really saying is the game of the week at 9 o'clock prime time. The Panthers versus the Stars at Canton. The Stars are -3, and they are -167 in the money line. The Panthers +130. Over-under is 42.5. Instantly taking the over. That may be a sucker bet, but I'm instantly taking the over. When you're looking at this, you can make a really good case. These are the two best quarterbacks. In fact, really, right now, they're the two best quarterbacks in the USFL, and recency bias would say that there might be the two best quarterbacks in spring football. We already knew Case was the best quarterback in spring football, but after the game Love had, some people might go that far. I won't yet, but I will say I think this game's going to be high. I think the reason it's going to be a high game is I think that the Stars are not going to have as great a day on offense they did last week in a sense, or they'll have about the same, but it's whenever they don't have a good drive, it'll mainly be one that benefits the Panthers on offense. I think they score a lot. And as you can see on terms of the point spread and all that, it's just, man, this is a tough one. I really want the Panthers to win this, but I think the Stars end up pulling the W out. I think the Stars win, but I will say this. I think the Panthers cover. I'm going with this game. For those of you who also don't know, whenever you see at the end, for me, when a push happens, I go with whatever team it makes sense. So if I see like -3, if this game were to end up being a 3-point difference where the Stars win by 3, and I said the Panthers, I'd count that as you'll see what I mean. I'm gonna have this. I think that this game goes to OT actually, or last second field goal that puts them up 1 or 2. So I think the Panthers cover. They prove that they are a legit team, and the Stars prove they are the best team by winning this game, and that these two teams end up being viewed as the two best teams in the league. This game, I think, is going to live up to that. I think it's going to be great. Now, in terms of my overall, I forgot to mention this last week. You saw it, but I forgot to mention it. In terms of my overall betting picks, naturally, over-under has been the one I was the weakest at, but last week I actually did pretty good. I got like 3 of the 4 right last week in the over and under, and I went about 500 on both the other ones. So I definitely had a pretty decent first week. It wasn't a fantastic, like I got it perfect, but I did pretty good, I think, all things considered. So hopefully this week we'll do even better. Overall, this has been Zomfox. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Every week we have at least 3 videos coming out during the season. So as always, have a great night.